I will talk more from the support side, more than the legal side. Dana too, I'm sure will have many points of view here to jump in. I think we have to really understand that it will take immense strength for a woman to really file a police report that she's being raped by her husband. Even children who are raped by their fathers or their uncles or their brothers struggle because the family anger will descend on them, especially if the father, the male figure, is a breadwinner figure. Because he goes off to jail, the thing becomes public, relatives know. Of course, the names are not in the newspapers, but you will have a lot of people getting on the grapevine and it will be out. So I think we have to first appreciate the dilemma that she will always go through. And if it goes, as Professor Chan has said, into a police report, the retraction is not there. She will have to follow the process. It will traumatize her. She will flip her stories a few times. It will become all confusion. Then you find that the prosecution charge will become something else. Then she will be left, why did I even embark on this? You know, I wanted the highest charge and it has become something else. So the support to follow her through the process is as equally important as trying to encourage her to make a report in the first place. Whether we have the resources to follow through that process in the Singapore context, I will tell you no. Our social workers are stretched. Their caseload is about 300 cases per month, which I think is a crazy load. And if you have specialist family service centers like PAVE, I think it is quite hard. So the state has to decide. It's not just a matter of passing a law, it also means investment in resources. You look at Australia and other countries, the kind of support that they give to women, and even a man who's going through such a trauma is very intense on the individual compared to us. Having said all that, there are some do's that I think women need to maybe embrace to try their best. I think first, nothing like this should be happening to us or anyone for that matter. And so, when you know that it should not be happening to you, how do you move to the next step? I think the strength, I do not know where it's going to come from, but the strength has to come from within to say, I do not deserve this. That person reaching that point of I do not deserve it, we have to quickly give the support, and we are not there. We have a helpline where we have, but it is a bit fragmented. And as individuals, we have to lobby for a proper structured system to giving support to women, especially women who come out to say that they have been sexually assaulted. Even, let's talk about stranger rape, right? I sometimes wonder what happens to the women. As a reporter before, I tried my best to do a story on after the charges in the court. What happens to the girl? I couldn't get anyone. I couldn't even get to a person who has been raped. I got to her. She doesn't want to talk because she said she's under the ministry's some counseling program. But the information is scarce, and I always wonder, when does rape counseling begin and when does it end? And this is where the law has done its part. This is the other part that. But I don't have real ready answers for this other than in a marriage, in a relationship, our marriage counseling courses, you know, we have all these premarital counseling. It must be there, that it must be a relationship based on trust. No one deserves anything less. But I do not know who's doing that. Yeah.
I think before we get to the point where we are in trouble, we should already learn to change the culture that's within ourselves, among our friends, within our families. Parents have to raise their children differently. We have to relate to our folks differently. I think it was Kam Hong who mentioned earlier that we don't have a culture of rights in Singapore because we are not encouraged to. I think that's a very important thing. We don't recognize that we have rights, and women in particular are worse off because the culture has always taught us to accommodate and so on. I have one example recently which again I was surprised by, and this is a person close to me. She's educated, she's normally confident, and holds herself, with esteem. And she comes back and tells me this situation where she's in a working situation where this man has this tendency to demonstrate, has this tendency to touch her, like he will come over and place a hand on her hip, or puts her hand behind her back to push her, and it's a little bit too low, it's not your back. And she obviously doesn't like it, right? Otherwise she wouldn't be telling me about it. And I'm looking at her and saying, why don't you tell him to stop? And she just looks at me with these big eyes, like what are you saying, So and in the back of her mind, I think she's saying, she's probably thinking she doesn't want to come over as being overly sensitive or whatever. And I want to let you girls know, you can tell someone not to do something very politely, but very firmly. And I'm even trying to give her the sentence. You can say, excuse me, I would rather you don't do this. Please don't do this, You don't really have to come over as a tyrant or a tyrant or a shrew until it becomes necessary.
Agree.